What I found when I was growing up is that so many people, they tell you that having a high sense of self, thinking of yourself as being important, it's egotistical, it's narcissistic, it's this, it's that. And I feel like it's just a way for everyone else to drag you into mediocrity, right? Don't get me wrong. If you're sabotaging your relationships, you're putting everyone down so you can pull yourself up, that's a whole different thing. That's just fucking stupid, right? That's just loser behavior. But I believe that we are humans, we're individual. I think you put God first, obviously, and you have to put yourself second, right? You are the most important thing to yourself in your life, right? People will tell you self-love, being, having a high sense of self, it's egotistical, it's narcissistic, blah, blah, blah. But this is coming from people that mostly have bad self-perceptions. They have bad self-images. They don't think highly of themselves, therefore they're trying to drag you down to their level. And I believe that to be the truth, because no one wants to feel good about themselves for their high achievements in the modern world. They only want to feel bad about themselves and play the victim. So therefore they're trying to drag you down to their level. And the majority of modern day adults are just kindergarteners, and this is how I personally view them. But instead of being in a playground, playing in a playground, they have the office space, they have their office, they go to the fridge in their lunch breaks, blah, blah, blah. Bro, it's the same exact shit as when you were growing up, right? And instead of achieving anything of great significance in their life, they achieve victimhood. That's what they achieve. That's their achievement. Because it's easier to be a victim at the end of the day and ponder about how your parents raised you and cry about your trauma from childhood than it is to put pen to paper and create something that impacts the world in any significant positive way. Right? It's easier to sit there and cry about shit. Oh my goodness, my parents didn't do this for me. My parents, they didn't do that for me. But bro, at the end of the day, it doesn't, shit happens to a lot of people in childhood. You know what I mean? I was in the fucking hospital for 3-4 months when I was 8 years old because I had to have a surgery for something that I couldn't control. But just because I did that shit and I went through that shit doesn't mean I'm going to live through that for the rest of my life. It's something that happened to me and it shaped me into the man that I was today, but it didn't, it all depends on how you view the situation. I just choose to view things in a positive way. Okay, shit happened to me in my childhood, but okay, it shaped me into the man that I am now. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be as thick-skinned. I wouldn't be this. I wouldn't be that. You know what I mean? If you don't see it in a positive way, it's just going to keep breaking you down. Oh my goodness, my parents used to do this and that to me. They didn't let me do this. They made me do that. Bro, it doesn't matter, man. If you want to achieve anything of high significance in your life, it literally could be anything from building your dream body to building a successful business that makes millions or possibly billions or being the best footballer in the world. I believe it all starts in the mind. It all starts in the mental plane, but we're taught that wanting more and wanting to be better than other people is narcissistic, right? And we're all told to be victims. We're not necessarily told to be victims, but this is what society creates. And especially it happens a lot through social media because everyone wants to feel, they want other people's pity. They want people to feel sorry for them because it makes them feel better. So, in the end of the day, you have to just let go of that mindset. Okay? So, if you want to achieve things of greater significance, you have to understand that you have to be a little bit selfish. And I know your mind is probably going to think it's selfish to do so. But at the end of the day, you can't hold two contradictory thoughts in your head, right? You can't want to achieve something of greater significance, but also think it's selfish to do that. It's just not possible to hold those two thoughts in your head, right? So you must first literally, in your mind, unsubscribe from the belief that if you put yourself first, you're a bad person. Because at the end of the day, you're not a bad person if you put yourself first. You're just being a human that wants to take care of himself. Because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't put yourself first, who's going to put you first? No one's going to be able to take care of you. No one's going to be able to put you first like you can put yourself first. Look, I think that the funny thing is, people will impose their limiting beliefs onto you and they disguise it as being humble. And this is why you need to have a high sense of self and a strong self-belief so that you can distinguish between what's bullshit and what information will benefit your life. Is being a victim your whole life going to benefit you? No, it isn't. Is being a little bitch your whole life going to benefit you? No, it isn't. So what's the point of subscribing to that way of thought? What's the point of subscribing to that way of thinking, to that belief system? There's no point to doing that, right? And in terms of belief, you need to believe that you're put on this earth to achieve greatness, right? That you have a purpose. Otherwise, it's easy to fall into the rabbit hole of nihilism. And a lot of people do this. They just go down this rabbit hole. They're like, oh my goodness, the only way I can feel good about myself is drugs and, meaningless bullshit. But it's just not what it seems to be. Chasing the high, chasing the high, chasing the high. What's the point of chasing a high if the high just leaves every time you do it? After 5 minutes, after 1 hour, after 2 hours. It's not like as good as you think it is, bro. The only good thing of significance is building things long term. Building long-term and meaningful relationships, and that's not just with women, but it could be if you're a man with your boys. That's meaningful. Building a family as opposed to just having casual sex, because casual sex is meaningless. It's void of any meaning, and it just doesn't have any significant positive impact on your life, right? So mentally, back to the topic, you have to shift your beliefs, bro. You have to believe that you're the best, but you have to also understand that. I know it's a contradictory mindset, but you have to believe that you're not enough right now, but you can still become better. And it's the balance of holding those two mindsets, right? Now, when it comes to knowing yourself, it's no different to getting to know someone else. People think they know themselves based on their thoughts, but your thoughts aren't you. You're not your thoughts. And I know a lot of people tell you are your thoughts, but you're not, right? You are your spirit. You are your actions. You are, just how you operate. You're not your thoughts. You're not your opinions, because all of these things have just been imposed realistically. Your thoughts for that day tend to come from what you've been through that day. So you just got to kind of have them and you just let them go. That's how you just deal with your thoughts, right? Whether you write it in a journal or you just kind of mentally think and you just let it go, or you have an idea and you put pen to paper and you use that shit to help you. A lot of artists, they might have trauma, they might have shit that they've been through, and they write that shit down and they make a song regarding that shit. That's how they deal with that shit, right? So, for example, how can you say you love yourself if you have never put yourself first? Because I don't believe that at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to love yourself. You're not going to be able to show yourself self-love if you don't prioritize you, if you don't prioritize yourself. And how can you trust you if you haven't been through anything in life, if you haven't been through any significant events, if you haven't come out the other side at the end of it unscathed? And this is how you start putting yourself first, and how you actually develop a good connection with yourself. And this means you have to do more for you, not for others. Not putting others first because you feel sorry for them. Not putting, your mates first because you feel bad if they don't get the opportunity first. You have to do things for you. What do you want to do? Go places you want to go. Do things you want to do. Spend time alone, letting your thoughts process, because that's also important, right? You can't just bottle up your thoughts, because at the end of the day, that shit's going to just negatively impact you. You're going to be leaving open loops in your own mind of, but what about that thing from last week? But what about that thing from a few days ago? You just have to do things, let it go, and that's it, bro. Otherwise, shit's just going to keep affecting you, and it's just going to be negativity all bubbled up in your mind, right? You have to acknowledge that shit and you have to let it go, right? On top of that, you have to do different things that make you uncomfortable, because that's where growth comes from, right? And I know that I don't necessarily think this advice can be applicable to women as it can be to men, because I think men need experience, women less so. But, as a man, what made you once anxious will eventually become the new norm for you. And that's how it is. You're not, you might do something the first time, you're like, oh shit, I was bad at that, I was terrible at this. But then after you've done it enough, you're like, it's just another day of doing that thing. Your first time going to the gym might be anxious, it might be busy, gym crowded, you might be shitting your pants. By the 500th time, you're like, it's just another day at the gym. You're just chilling. Just is what it is, bro. And so that's how you just have to view it, right? You have to keep putting yourself first. You have to understand that development comes through doing, not necessarily just thinking, because you do it and mentally you upgrade. You're not just going to mentally upgrade through mentally thinking about it alone. Mental side of things can help. That's a whole different video in itself. You can develop mentally. You can develop physically by just thinking, but it's not always the case, right? So understand this. Understand that you have to put yourself first, and that is how you develop a good relationship with yourself.